Right, hey guys, how are we doing? We are continuing with Totally Not Mark's reviews for One Piece, and we are checking out part 1 of 2 of Dressrosa. I am just about to finish the Dressrosa arc. I'm on volume 80, so I'm pretty much there, and it's incredible. There's so much going on, and so many reveals, and Doflamingo is just such an epic villain. I absolutely love it. So let's see what Totally Not Mark has to say about the first half of Dressrosa, shall we? Oh my god, I am loving it.
Now this is how you develop and build up an arc. Dressrosa is on track
Doflamingo,
to be one of,
sick.
if not my favorite arcs
The
of
toy
the series
bit.
so far. And it's been a pretty surreal journey over the last
the tournament arc!
Coming from being a complete newbie to the series to now having covered 745 chapters in total.
Yes.
On the 27th arc of the series. And I'm not even
I feel
covering
pretty
this entire
epic.
arc in this one video. Heck, I'm barely covering 40% of it.
The stupid costumes they have.
So unbelievably girthy. Never have I read through an arc that has offered so much, so often.
Mate, it's got a lot.
It's got a lot. Interesting information and story. So much information, in fact, that I had to tackle this monster of an arc in 2 separate videos.
That is fair.
This one, I'll be covering the events covered in chapters 700 all the way
spoilers top left.
45, with next week fully completing the arc. And let me tell you, there was way more
Doflamingo's so sick.
about in this one video alone. It has more key events than
Aw.
both Fishman Island
Lucy.
and Punk Hazard combined, and has captured my attention like no other story that's come before it. So what are we waiting for? Let's kick
Get
off with
into
first
it.
impressions of, thoughts on, and review for a story that's impressive.
Doflamingo's
clever,
backstory as well is like
equal measure.
dark.
I'm Totally Not Mark, and this is Dressrosa.
Oh, sick. It's nice to have a little tournament arc in as well, like just
Now, before
people
we dive
doing
headfirst
shonen
into
stuff.
Dressrosa, Law, along with the Straw Hats and Caesar, make their way to the island to drop him off as part of their bargain.
Yeah, they
But
do.
one other curious interaction occurred that I'm guessing has a big implication for the future. At the very end of this Punk Hazard arc, with the Straw Hats having gone and Doflamingo having arrived on the island, Smoker is left to take the wrath of Dawn. But moments before he loses his life, Aokiji stops him right in his tracks, protecting someone that he refers to as an old friend, before later suggesting that the greatest challenge yet faced is on the horizon.
Yeah, there's more coming.
Once again. Now, if that doesn't make you curious as to what's to come, I don't know what
Yeah,
will.
this-
And with that, the Straw Hats have finally arrived
Like,
at Dressrosa.
here we go.
So we are finally on the island, and I friggin' love this arc and the direction it's heading personally. But moreover, I am utterly floored by the staggering amount of information, detail,
That was a
and
lot.
depth this arc
That was
adds
a lot.
to the overall One Piece world, while feeling way lighter than it has any right to be, while also introducing what feels like hundreds of new characters. But to be
A lot,
fair,
and they're quite
most of
likeable.
these are no names from the bouts in the Coliseum later in the
Ooh, you
story.
can't call them
And
that.
yeah, you heard me right. This arc has Coliseum battles to the death. It's also got living toys, and it's got a blind guy that might be one of the coolest characters introduced yet.
Yeah, man.
The funny thing about all this is, everything I just said here doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what Dressrosa has to offer.
The
One thing
stupid
this arc did
costumes.
that I haven't seen any other arc do better, except for perhaps Marineford, is make me care about how the events that unfold go down. And I'm not exaggerating here, it only builds throughout this arc's runtime, arriving at a point during chapter 745 that has me primed to read more once I get done recording this video. I mean, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm picking it right up after this. And personally, I think that's a really important thing to be feeling at this point in the story. When your arc is as long as Dressrosa is, there are 2 things you need to make sure are taken care of, and that's pacing and
Pacing.
how interesting it is.
Definitely
It's tricky to
important,
balance,
my
but
god.
Dressrosa does this better than any other arc so far, in my opinion. Keeping things interesting by
And even gives you some backstories on people dead quick.
in very compelling ways, and it keeps the pace feeling snappy by revealing new pieces of vital information, crucial new characters, and swerves that keep us on the edge of our seats and unbalanced
the
as
little
we try
people.
to figure out just what the hell is happening on this island. From the very beginning of this arc, in addition to the setup and goals established in Punk Hazard, something I criticized in the last video seems to have been rectified in Dressrosa, and that's paneling. Though still not at its best, a large section of this portion of Dressrosa
Sometimes I find that the
clear,
bubbles are
easily
going
communicated
over each
around
other as well at
characters
times,
feeling,
like,
as well
but
as the wildlife, architecture, cultures, and notable structures visible on the curious island of Dressrosa. But before ever landing on the island, the crew and Law establish and break down the plan of action before diving into their respective squads. The first squad is to deliver Caesar, the second squad is to take care of and watch over the Sunny, and finally the third team is to destroy the factory that produces
Hell
the
yeah.
artificial devil fruits. 3 three separate teams with three very different goals. And right from the get-go, this made for some really great pacing as each scene offered something.
Yeah, because you got like 3 different things you're following now. It's like cool.
Something curious regarding this section that I found particularly noteworthy was Luffy's exclusion from the squad that drops off Caesar and his placement alongside Sanji, Frankie, and Zoro in the factory demolition squad. And while Robin and Usopp went with Law to deliver Caesar, the fact that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji weren't assigned to that particular section told me something, and it was confirmed later. And I will talk about that later, but right now, there are 3 groups established right away, all with different missions, and what made this work so well for me was that the conflicts each team encounters made the story infinitely more engaging and exciting. Whether it be through the Sunny's abrupt and artistic overtaking, the
looks dead good.
Green
All the
Island
stupid
to draw off
mustaches,
Caesar,
man.
or the very curious scene shared by Luffy and the older blind man as they stop to eat en route to the factory.
Mate, the reveal on who he is.
And speaking
Whoa.
of that last one, I found it to be awesome, simple, and perhaps telling of what's to come in the future. Having decided to stop to grab some
There's been so much change in the time skip.
Sanji, Kinemon, and Frankie all sit down in an establishment as they overhear the older blind man being taken advantage of by some thugs. And with Luffy being Luffy, he walks up to
You
them
obviously
and
can't
makes
just
sure
leave it, can
they're
they?
fair, resulting in the blind man making all of his money back and giving his thanks to Luffy.
Woohoo! And then he just annihilates the place.
Their lives, a massive hole opens up in the floor of the cafe, swallowing up anyone that were to have fallen into it. As the old man makes his way to the door, Luffy remarks at how strong he is, asking who he was. In response to this,
Best
he
do not
turns
know.
to face Luffy and suggests that keeping that to himself might be better for the both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so immediately I'm hooked, but what's more is that due to that important key event, Zoro notices that he is now without any of his swords. They've been stolen. Zoro then concludes that the old man must have taken them, despite everyone around
Then he just sees it just
concluding that it must
going.
be fairies.
Doesn't he see it get carried out of a window?
Okay. And so this
Yeah.
leads to that particular group tasked with destroying the factory.
Fairies, that's what they say, isn't it? They got like the story of the fairies in there.
And with this next scene, I knew I was in store for something really, really fun and impressive. When Usopp, Robin, Law, and Caesar arrive on Greenbit while exploring the jungle of the area for Navy soldiers, both Robin and Usopp get taken underground by these tiny
The little people.
All the while Law is met with 2 interesting individuals for the exchange, Doflamingo and that old blind man.
He's
Going
an
by the name of
admiral.
Fujitora, he is a new admiral in the Navy.
Oh.
My jaw in this moment
Yeah.
hit the floor, and as my jaw is on this floor, it's also explained in Robin and Usopp's situation down underground with these tiny little things that the fairies the townspeople were speaking of actually did steal Zoro's
Yeah,
sword.
brilliant.
That is what I meant about 2 seemingly unrelated plot threads becoming tangled, creating tension and excitement much more than what they would have been able to do on their own. And there's more. This scene keeps on giving. On top of Fujitora, an admiral of the Navy now facing Law, on top of Doflamingo now facing Law, on top of fairies actually existing and stealing Zoro's swords, Doflamingo reveals that he's lied. He is still part of the 7 warlords, and he is still the king of Dressrosa. You just got pranked.
Yeah, man.
Which means this
So we're missing that, like, he actually had the whole papers orchestrated to make it seem that way, and then they were changing that day, weren't they? Showing that Doflamingo has got a little bit of power going on outside of stuff.
Across Dressrosa doing God knows what, and this isn't even the good part yet. This is the setup. So
Get to the
let me
good part.
talk about one of my favorite aspects of the story, and that is the Colosseum. Speaking somewhat generally,
Mate,
this
Luffy's
arc is
costume
unique as it's the
for
only
one panel when he had all the armor on
simply by using its
looked
inhabitants.
incredible, and then he just had to take it off.
Dotted all across the island are living toys that can talk and move on their own.
He's
No
class.
one seems to know why or how these little guys came to be here, but at the end of every day, they need to return to a certain place
And it
on the
all
island.
makes
And
sense.
the cornerstone of this mystery comes in the form of a character I will call henceforth Toy Soldier. With
Found.
Zoro having gone looking for his swords and Sanji having become a little preoccupied with the dancing girl called Viola, both Luffy and Frankie stumble across this little guy outside of an event held in the Colosseum of Dressrosa by the king. A free-to-enter tournament with the winning prize being the Flame Devil Fruit containing powers once held by Luffy's brother, Fire Fist Ace. This blew my mind, and my excitement
We learn more about
shot up
fruits
from an ace
and how they
to
work.
100 degrees Celsius, man. The Flame Fruit is by far and away my favorite devil fruit and my favorite powers in general. Not only am I massively invested in Luffy and someone on our side to
So it's
get
like
these
once
epic fire powers,
the person dies,
I'm also an enormous fan of
fruit
tournament
grows
arcs
back.
in general. If done well, they offer a really interesting but easy to understand vehicle for great story to be told, and it offers far more characters
Bellamy.
to establish themselves that otherwise might be impossible to do under different circumstances. this tournament sort of sits on its own to the side of everything, eventually, like everything else in this arc, it all ties together in an impressive and elegant way.
It does.
So let's dig into this
I agree with
tournament.
that.
What did I think of it? Well, speaking as a Dragon Ball fan, a series that is made up of tons and tons of different tournament arcs,
Yes, it
I
is.
loved this addition to One Piece's story. And while reading, it hit me that Oda managed to make it 700 chapters in a manga before diving into a tournament arc with Luffy.
That's quite impressive.
That's rather unique given the genre at hand, but regardless, I thought this tournament served the story being told perfectly. We have a terrific goal to shoot for in the Flame Fruit, and we have tons of great matchups to look forward to as well. And
a lot of interesting backstories on people as well.
What I really appreciated while reading through this was Luffy's choice of disguise. You see, in the first tournament of Dragon Ball, Master Roshi enters in disguise to make sure Goku doesn't win. But in this tournament, Luffy dresses up like Master Roshi.
Oh, okay, I never thought about
I
that.
thought it was hilarious upon first viewing. Regardless,
I never thought about that. Yeah, it could have been a little something.
A massive statue of its supposed finest gladiator with
Kairos.
1,000 victories and 0 losses. Though the legitimacy of this particular person having ever existed seems to have
Because
been
no one remembers who he
In
is.
addition to that, we learned that the first rounds of the tournament to see 4 separate free-for-all.
Oh, that guy with the pointy head.
100 people participating. The 4 winners from that will then move
Because
into
didn't
the
Luffy's
final
granddad
round. And what makes this
get rid of the
entertaining is the
pointy
high
bit?
stakes and effort Luffy has to go to in order to protect his identity from being revealed. Meeting terrible individuals
Because
like
everyone knows who he is,
Burgess
Jesus.
from Blackbeard's crew, sent there to retrieve the ability in order to bolster his forces.
Yeah, Jesus.
And somewhat similarly, everyone else who's introduced.
He
in
is
this section
sick. I
puts the front
love when you find out what his
foot
deal
on
is.
desires. Like Cavendish, who was once the most popular pirate before
Cabbage.
Luffy came along and now resents him. There's Chin Zhao and his family who have a long-standing beef with the monkey name, but of course there's also those with altruistic goals, and none better embody that in this tournament than the character of Rebecca.
Yeah, man, she's sick.
Gladiator who's as kind as her outfit is ridiculous, and with these different interactions with these new characters, as
She
well
don't
as
kill nobody.
Bellamy, who's back by the way,
Oof,
sporting a
hyena.
outlook on life, full of respect for Luffy. It serves as a fantastic way to manage a manga's pacing. There's some great comedy, some touching moments, and some revealing instances like Luffy's collision with Chin Zhao, someone Garp crossed many years back, and he still
So I
holds
was right,
a grudge
yeah.
against Luffy and his
It's cool that he's
family. And
fighting people that can use haki as well.
With Blackbeard's flunky and the crazy man-eating loon called Bartolomeo having already qualified, Luffy is next up to topple all of those in his group, including Chin Zhao. Something that I also really liked about this section specifically that's on display is its paneling. There's some superb action shots with
There really
some
are.
great imagery.
It's so good.
Small body to heavily contrast all the massive opponents he's standing against. And this battle is
I like how the giant's
awesome.
wearing
There's
like the
a
actual
fighter
stuff that the
down
other two
towers over
giants on that
all
random island were wearing at
What
one time as
stands
well.
out beyond all others is Chin Zhao when he begins using the same hockey power
Which is sick.
that Luffy specializes in. The power of the Supreme King.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Chin's design here. It's understated and, frankly, really awesome when he channels his hockey ability. And with one punch, everyone in the arena is sent flying out of bounds as the two titans clash their tremendous fists together. There's an awesome sense of
It looks
impact on occasion
amazing.
during this clash, and the panels capture that perfectly. But to cut a long story short, he resents Luffy because Garp destroyed the shape of his head, preventing him from unlocking his treasure somewhere underneath the ground. It's the sins of the father or grandfather in this
But then he fixes it.
thing, but Luffy has this great line in response to his complaining. He says, "One punch, who cares? He's punched me countless times." And then proceeds to punch him with a massive fist that gives him back the shape of his head.
I thought that was boss.
Battle Royal.
Dead good.
I'm still not sure what, if any, significance Chin Zhao plays in the greater arc or greater story as a whole, but maybe it was only a chance occurrence and that's going to be the end of him here and now. But that doesn't really sound like One Piece to me, really.
No,
so
not at
I'm
all.
surprised that he does pick up again somewhere.
No.
Regardless, that's him pretty much done for the rest of this video's material at least, and with Luffy now qualified,
Yay!
we're greeted with another
Lucy's
interesting
qualified.
encounter. And
He's
this
missed the
Colosseum
whole
arc
Lucy
right
name
from
as well.
Luffy, while we were invested in the Flame Fruit coming into Luffy's possession, we're also exposed to dozens of new characters, and this is honestly rich for comedic moments. Like this Bartolomeo guy I touched on earlier.
He's
Introduced
class.
as this vicious savage of a human
He's
being
cleverly
sent to
put in
even
place as well.
When he speaks about Luffy and his exploits, it's revealed that he's actually a crazed superfan.
Yeah.
Having been there alone,
And I thought that was a really nice way of recapping everything that's gone on as well. He was cleverly placed at this time.
But essentially, he's a crazed superfan, and that's just really funny. And little things like that, as we meet characters.
Because he actually goes on about like Alabaster and everything else, and it's like, oh yeah,
lead to some really fun moments in the story, like this one with Rebecca, congratulating Luffy on his win and her round still to come in Block D. She gives Luffy food before
She
luring
does,
him
and
down
he
to the
loves
cell
it.
blocks to be ambushed, all in an effort to squash the competition and give herself a better chance at winning. But
You don't even try. That's well good timed, that.
Within Dressrosa goes, and we start to get this impression that all is not well in this strange place during Rebecca's
There is upset.
And this
There is
is
emotion.
one of many flashbacks
Soldier.
Story uses to tremendous effect in this arc. Each one after the other recontextualizing what we've already seen, adding further detail and history to this already vibrant and alive world he's created. Which is exactly what a great flashback scene should do. Now we get a bunch of these great flashback
Doflamingo's
in this story
evil, man.
in a fantastic
He's
swerve
evil.
that I honestly didn't see coming, even in the slightest. But I'll get to that a little bit later. During this particular flashback, we are made aware of Rebecca's tragic past, how she remembers her mother fondly, how they struggled for food, and how one day, after she left to go get some food for
She
her,
was
she
killed.
returned to them in the arms of a toy soldier, dead. It's sad to say the least, and it's here we begin to understand the significance of this little one-legged soldier. And it's also obvious to discern through this flashback why Rebecca is the way that she is.
Yeah.
She was cared for and trained intensely by the toy soldier and now can defend herself. She knows that there's something wrong and she wants to win the devil fruit to bring about order and peace
Try and
in
help.
the country. And these
Do
are
something.
more than reasonable goals, we find, as she also is the wielder of a particular type of hockey. In this instance, she can dodge and predict her opponent's movements like no other, effectively eliminating people using their own momentum.
Yeah, it just makes
she's
them
not
fall out
really a
themselves, doesn't she?
slouch either, although her outfit is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my entire life.
I ain't
All
complaining.
This is taking place during the tournament. Frankie has been in the company of this toy soldier, whom we now understand as someone that looks over and protects her, explaining why he was there in the first place, and it's that sort of attention to detail that I adore. But don't get comfortable here, because this is only just getting started, and from this point on, the story kicks itself into overdrive.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, this arc is nuts for getting stuff done and exposing new interesting plot threads. As of right now, Frankie is with the toy soldier, heading for the rendezvous point. Sanji has been led astray and then changed a woman named
He
Viola
got
for the better,
betrayed
who also
by
is
a
heading
lady.
in another direction. Zoro has managed to track down the little person who stole
Yeah,
his
he
sword,
has.
and he too is being filled in on what's going on. It seems like
Everyone's getting
all of this
information
is
from different places,
connected,
yeah.
and it totally is, which was a great feeling to get while reading through it. And if that wasn't enough, while this is all happening, Law is being destroyed by the combined forces of Fujitora, who can
Mate,
create
it looks epic as
meteors
hell though in the
into
manga,
Doflamingo.
like,
And
Jesus.
that's not even to make mention of the situation back in the Sunny. It's
Oh
one
yeah, the
terrible
woman that can
thing
turn
after another
the
before
art
our heroes in
stuff
the
that she
story,
has.
which on its own serves to build up a lot of tension, but moreover the contrast in all of these different circumstances helps us retain interest in the story without getting winded from overexposure to a particular setting. There's a lot of variety here, with one scene being water, another being open beach, more in the city.
There's a
and
lot.
in a
It's got
coliseum.
everything.
Every scene offers something narratively and visually different, which is a welcome change from Punk Hazard or Fishman Island in the last few weeks. But back to the story at hand. You see, a plan of some description has been spoken of whenever these little fairy characters called Totanas are on screen. Once again, the concept of this plan
The time for revolution is
sounds
near.
somewhat circumstantial, with it being the day the Straw Hats arrive and all, until you realize that they chose to do this there and then because they too were under the impression that Doflamingo had quit the Seven Warlords.
Yeah.
Everything in this story makes sense so far and ties together in such a natural way, it hurts.
They build Usopp up so much as well. Oh, because he looks like Nolan the Liar, doesn't he? Nice little throwback there as well. They've met Nolan the Liar.
After befalling the Sunny and the team of Nami, Brook, and Chopper left to guard it. You see, and this is why I love Doflamingo. Doflamingo was one step ahead of literally everyone from the
He's a
get-go.
scheming little
He
so-and-so.
never quit the Warlords. He staged the entire article in the papers. He planted the Devil Fruit as a prize in the Coliseum because he wanted Luffy to be lured there to be captured, and he has set his people to take care of the ship. And take care of them they do. Gyola, now one of the members of the Don Quixote family, stands between the Straw Hats and their beloved ship. Having used her Devil Fruit ability, the likes of which
So
we haven't
weird.
seen in quite some time,
It's
changing
a
them
strange
all into
one.
different works of art, all of them in different styles. Nami is sort of Picasso, I think, but the best one of all is
That's
Brook,
great. It's the
who's
Screaming
big
Ghost, isn't it?
Munch,
Yeah.
Scream. And now with the Sunny having been turned into a piece of artwork in and of itself, and with the crew having no way of defending themselves, it seems as though
Brooke
things
distracts
couldn't
with the
get
music?
any worse. And that's when Law makes a distress call to the Sunny, ordering them to swing by Greenbit to pick them up. So, not ideal circumstances
Yeah,
right
it's a
now,
bit
but
awkward.
through some clever misdirection by Brook, the crew managed to regain control of the ship and dispose of Gyola, the first move that hasn't gone according to the Doflamingo plan. Additionally, now that we are getting a better idea of the true scope of this conflict, we recognized the sudden capture of Robin and Usopp into the undergrounds of Greenbit thanks to the Tontatas, which was also not part of Doflamingo's plan. Down there,
They
Usopp
trust.
and Robin learn of the little guy's struggles and how their people have been through a ton with the various rulers. Together they wish to launch a revolt against the Don Quixote family with the added help of the toy soldier. And while this is a B-plot, it's by all means just as crucial.
It is, really is, Jesus. Everything just comes together, man.
Alleviate a lot of the tension and stress with much needed comedic value through scenes like Usopp lying to them pretending to be a relative of Noland, who is a hero to these little guys
sick,
too, by the
absolutely
way,
sick, yeah.
which on its own is super interesting. And this isn't the only time the events of Skype
because he did travel around, didn't he?
Earlier in the story, Bellamy made everyone aware that
hence how he came across the island before he went to the Skypiea.
For the inhabitants. Both of those events are curious, but more so the Noland one, as he, up until this point, wasn't brought up in any context outside of Skypiea. I guess he must have approached it from that direction then, if he did in fact go there. But as the Tontatas worship Usopp and Robin for their offered help, suddenly the entire island starts
Look
to
at that.
shake. It's
Wow.
the titanic battle that's taking place outside between Law, Fujitora, and Doflamingo.
Meteors.
And this battle is really interesting, as while I was reading through it, there were subtle hints dotted throughout that there was more going on than I once thought. Like Law intentionally not using any of his energy to help the effort in getting to Greenbit in the first place, citing that he's saving it for Doflamingo.
Definitely.
He intended on duking it out with him in the first place. But I don't think he counted on things going so wrong so fast
No,
either.
not at all.
However, thankfully, the ship arrives to scoop them away despite Law insisting on staying behind to try his best at defeating him. But they can't get away. Looming above them, masterfully utilizing his ability, spies Doflamingo.
Yeah, because isn't it he can use his strings on the clouds. Boom. Go ahead, Sanji.
Sanji has some of the best subversive saves in the entire series. Like, I left out of my seat when this happened, and man, did I love it. And not because Sanji could stand up to Doflamingo, more specifically because he couldn't, and he tried anyway.
Yeah.
I love these moments from a character perspective, especially for Sanji. And this was a peak
Just jumping in, and it's like, right, and then, what, Nami gets the clouds away?
Perfectly timed teamwork, they managed to get away from Doflamingo for a moment.
So you can't follow him as well?
Not with Law.
That's cool.
Okay,
Jesus.
slow down. What the heck is happening here? This arc is bloody insane with the amount of things that are happening and how often things progress in this.
Yeah.
It's a long story, admittedly, but it's by no means boring. It's one of the most consistently interesting stories I've been exposed to so far in One Piece. Like, Luffy...
Because you get invested in it, and then you go back to the other one, you're like, oh yeah, that's going on, oh god.
Zoro giving Luffy lip for not telling him about the tournament in the first place, when suddenly, boom, down comes Doflamingo with Law as if to prove a point. And Doflamingo shoots Law with a gun. Now, where have I seen that kind of behavior before? And to make matters worse, Zoro plunges in to help, but is stopped in his tracks by the new Admiral Fujitora.
Yeah.
Luffy can't help because, get this, the bars of the Colosseum are sea prism. The Colosseum is clearly built to hold people inside, and if you thought things couldn't get any worse, they friggin' do.
Yeah.
Rigging through on a sail is the team back safely on the Sunny, only they're not safe. They're being pursued by Big Mom. This was the single best sequence of events I've ever
what's
experienced.
going on?
The suspense, the not knowing, the action, the excitement, and the reveals. It doesn't stop to catch its breath for even a split second.
Because this was clever to throw in, like, near the right at the end as well, isn't it? But that's not this right now. Because I think that's what's led up to the thing. I've literally just seen where they're at.
There are so many possibilities that oftentimes it's practically impossible to figure out.
Yeah, you
what
can't
comes
predict what's going to
next.
happen.
And needless to say, the Big Mom chase, I did not expect even in the slightest, though her presence absolutely
Made
in this
sense.
instance makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, completely separate with everything having gone wrong, Law having been dragged back to the palace along with Doflamingo and Fujitora, Luffy trapped inside the Colosseum, and the revolution going down on this very day. Nothing in place from the Straw Hats. This is exactly the sort of manic energy I should be feeling right now. All the plot lines are after converging in one form or another, and splashed out in all sorts of different chaotic directions, leaving the heroes at a massive disadvantage. It's spectacular to read through. And it's at this point in the story I should mention that my reading experience during this arc has been significantly better than that which I've experienced since the time skip. Not to say that anything I've read...
You see, again, I've not really
This clearly
I have
is
not,
at a completely different standard in terms
not
of
liked
pace.
anything that I've read so
Every
far.
chapter, it feels like a greater amount of progression
This
takes
is
place,
the
and
best so
of
far,
course,
like, though,
something
but...
vitally important happens. With chapters Chapter 730 being a prime example of that. And I think it achieves this specifically because of Punk Hazard in this instance, as well as Fishman Island in the case for Big Mom, doing all the heavy lifting in terms of setup. But that's not to say that Dressrosa doesn't set up anything on its own either, because it absolutely does.
Oh god, yeah.
You might think that at this point there isn't much video left to discuss, with there just being 15 chapters or so left to cover, but holy hell would you be wrong for thinking that. And it's in this section of the story I'm made aware of the
We learn about the
limitations
toys.
this arc has in implementing its story. Having covered the events of the Colosseum and acquainted us with the building, we learn that those that lose are transported to the factory beneath the building and turned into toys by this little
And then
girl
everyone forgets them.
called Sugar. And let me tell you, this little girl freaks me out more
She
than
is weird.
any other entity in the One Piece story, or maybe even fiction. Her powers are utterly terrifying, and there's no telling how old she is either, as these powers sort of freeze her age in time, apparently. So, okay, get this. All the toys throughout this island are her own creation. They were once people.
And she turns them into toys.
The terrifying part. The scary
And then
part
everyone
is that
forgets them.
once she changes you into a toy, everyone, and I mean literally everyone on planet Earth, forgets that you ever existed. But you yourself, as a toy,
Have
still
memories
remember
of-
everything.
Yeah,
Bound by a
sad
contract
that.
Sugar
Sad
honors
times.
after your creation. You must obey the Gon Quixote family, and you cannot
Oh yeah, she
harm
puts the rules in.
people.
She embeds the rules, doesn't
What's
she?
interesting about that specifically is while reading this, I recall that in Rebecca's flashback, the toy soldier could hurt humans. Specifically made aware of this fact during her own training sequence, teaching her how to
Yeah, he's the
defend
one
herself. And
that
this
wasn't
is
given
hugely
the rules
significant,
embedded,
as all the
'cause he was
other
the first
toys
one,
seem
wasn't
to
he?
be bound by this one rule.
Yeah.
And this is when we finally get a glimpse into the true life of the toy soldier. And before getting into it, without reading it yourself, I don't think this flashback can be nearly as effective. Going by the name of Kiros, having grown up a down-and-out thug on the streets with tremendous fighting potential, he was eventually taken into the Colosseum to fight. There he easily racked up 100 fights won, with 0 losses in record time. And as the fights rolled on by, in only a matter of 9 years, he accumulated 3,000 consecutive victories, eventually gaining a new
Absolutely
respect for himself
epic
and ultimately became
lad.
the leader of
Mad
the royal
lad.
family's
Mad
guard.
lad.
This is where we see Viola, King Riku, and Scarlet, Rebecca's mother. And it's in this flashback that we learn that he was not only Rebecca's father, but he was the statue that stands in the Colosseum grounds.
So cool.
They had
It's like,
all simply
that's why no one
forgotten
remembers,
the
'cause he's a
man behind the
toy.
statue. And you know, it's a tale as old as time. Scarlet and he fall in love, they run off together, have a child, but all is not well in the kingdom. Doflamingo seems to have caused a tremendous amount of chaos, and once Riku goes to investigate, he's captured and shackled by his leg. But as soon as King Riku's life is put in danger, Kiro slices off his own leg.
Which is why he's only got one leg as a toy,
to cleave off his head. However, in doing so, Sugar manages to touch him before he can make contact, transforming the once immense gladiator into a small toy soldier. He escapes with the king, but the damage is done. Neither the king nor his wife, or even his
Know
kid,
who he is.
recognize
Yeah.
him or remember him.
Mad.
I loved this flashback, and for me, it was one of the highlights of this entire arc, creating this amazingly sympathetic character in Rebecca, Riku, and Kiros, culminating in a moment that makes me cast my mind back to the start of the arc, where I learned about the statue in the first place. And this statue is mentioned on more than 1 or 2 occasions during the story too, but I never copped it or made the connection until this flashback.
Yeah, it's dead good. It's so... The storytelling's great.
At this moment, things aren't looking great for the protagonists of the story. They are either being pursued, captured, or trapped, with Law himself being on the verge of death thanks to Doflamingo and Fujitora, all now having headed back to the palace. Oh wait! I forgot to mention something. It's a little important. Nothing too major.
Here we go.
Doflamingo is a celestial dragon. The lore in this story is ridiculous.
It's like, what?
Now that I've learned
What?
about
How?
the
Why?
Twin
What?
Kings who all but one
Doflamingo's
family gathered
backstory.
together to form the world government, I now know that Alabasta and the kingdom down there will play a massive role in the future. I foresee that the celestial dragons, or those with the royal blood, are capable perhaps of something or needed for something significant, and Vivi in Alabasta will eventually play a large role in the story.
That'd be sick to see.
I have no idea what that might be as of yet, but I'm certain it will rear its head eventually. One doesn't simply just leave a Chekhov's gun there with no reason behind it. There's just a crazy amount of stuff being covered in this arc, guys. So, the group being chased by Big Mom are fleeing to the island of Zo.
Run away!
God. Now I can focus my attention on the events of Dressrosa, where Luffy wants to chase after Doflamingo, but is trapped in the Colosseum.
So he has to win now.
Then, this
Oh,
happens.
mate.
Okay, so I have this this mystery person to look forward to now, and judging from the expression on Luffy's face and the last panel of that revealed chapter, I think I know who this is. But to be honest, moreover, from this, I am just in love with the world building on display in this arc.
It's incredible.
The Tontatas, who I've barely touched on but will in a sec, the toy civilization and secret society, the criminal underworld exposed through Doflamingo, as well as the sheer amount of information gathered about the past is utterly insane. To say that I am buzzing to see what comes next is an understatement, and man, let's just dive into the revolution now that Kinemon, Luffy, and Zoro are all making moves towards the palace to fight Doflamingo. And the Tontatas forces are making their move into the factory to take out Sugar and to free all the toys from her curse. In doing so, it will throw the country into disarray, and they will finally, hopefully, come to their senses about Doflamingo.
People will start remembering things, and it's like, oh.
Today. Additionally, something of note here also is that Doflamingo is a terrific villain.
He's so good. He's an amazing villain. I love him. The bad guy. He's like,
after Crocodile, and the arc isn't even over yet, so there's still a good chance for him to actually edge it over him. He has his own distinct identity. The powers are fierce yet unpredictable,
and you want to learn more.
He shares concerning the past, as well as his overtaking of Dressrosa, is both ruthless and calculated.
Yeah, you just want to know. You want to know why, how, what's going on.
Had this been a lesser villain, the entire arc would have suffered greatly, I believe. And that's not even to make mention of this new character lighting up the finals of the tournament in Luffy's place. But this over here specifically,
the dragon style thing that he has, dead interesting.
Subplot concerning Usopp, Robin, and the little guys as their attempt to knock out
catches someone's sword, doesn't he? Just snaps it.
Everyone from their lives as toys and restore the memories of the country and probably the world. And it's here in this section of the story I believe we get a glimpse at the scope of Sugar's powers and what they might mean for the future.
Yeah, she ain't just some little kid. It's like, oh god.
Can effectively create a slave out of someone while erasing their impression on the world is incredibly unsettling and powerful. And this scene is filled with circumstances and scenarios that I found both rich with character and just flat out fascinating. The first coming from Robin, who, when she notices that Treble, one of the key members in the Don Quixote family, looming over Sugar as a bodyguard, protecting her from pretty much anything even coming remotely close to her. And that's when Robin comes up with the ingenious move of pretending to be a worker there, informing them of a conflict at the dock that requires Treble's attention. And I just love how smooth she is in this interaction. But the best part comes when Treble realizes that he's been duped and sees Robin running away, only for that Robin that he catches up to and pins down to be a friggin' decoy. Short but a great scene informed by character. However, despite Treble out of the way, for now, Sugar proves to be far much more than she even lets on, with her changing a large number of the forces of the Tontatas to toys along with Robin. And again, all of their friends and
it's like,
family
oh no, big oh no.
She even eventually changes Robin, and Usopp forgets she exists.
Yeah, which is...
And this is when something super interesting happens. When I first watched this, I enjoyed the scene that ultimately played out, but I had some reservations regarding Usopp in this instance, thinking that he should have been past this sort of behavior for the most part. But thankfully, something super interesting was brought to my attention that really highlights the strength of Sugar's character and the importance that the Straw Hat crew mean to each other.
What was that?
A lot of this history behind Usopp's bravery, and really the crux of his bravery in general, comes from Sogeking. It's an identity that he's used in the past as a security blanket like in Thriller Bark, but when Robin was removed from the equation, not only did he suddenly find himself in a dangerous situation without backup, but he was also after losing the impetus for Sogeking. He had lost all of his developmental motivations throughout Enies Lobby, which is where a lot of his bravery and character
never thought about that.
born.
Yeah,
now,
interesting.
Obviously, this is just conjecture, but I think it stands to reason that when Usopp lost a part of his crew in Robin from his memory, he too lost a large part of himself.
Yeah, that's... Wow, okay, yeah, give you that. Damn.
The detail that this story, time after time after time after time, I'm blown away by, with callbacks to prior events, to fantastic subversions on the back of monumental moments. Whenever Oda builds to a reveal, it never feels uninteresting to me.
No.
And when he builds to an action crescendo, it always hits its mark. And this time is no different.
Just scares it.
All the toys suddenly turning back into real people, and all the folks around the island suddenly recalling all of their lost memories, including Rebecca, who for the first time in her
she's like, I have a dad.
remembers that her father is alive. And speaking of which, once Zoro begins his awesome fight with Pika, Luffy, Kiros, and Kinemon get very close to the palace. Without hesitation,
here we
mighty
go.
purpose, now fully back to being himself, the Titanic gladiator with
goes in for that
3,000
swing
seconds
again.
in the Colosseum, motivated by the loss of his life and the loss of his greatest love, Scarlet, assuming the exact same position and attack.
Here you go,
never
swing
got to
again,
land
boy.
last time. With a massive slash, he beheads Doflamingo, much to the shock of everyone in the room. Having been waiting for this moment for 10 years.
But no, Shadow Clone Jutsu.
And man, was it cathartic. You can tell that this character was chomping at the bit to get his hands on Doflamingo. I mean, if you beat Luffy into the room, you know you're really keen.
That's fair.
As I said
That's
at the beginning
fair.
of this video, this is only 40% of this arc. And Doflamingo is far from defeated in this instance. Revealing that he's been using a scapegoat body double, Doflamingo recognizes that things aren't going according to plan, and now that things are getting pretty
Shadow
messy,
Clone Jutsu.
time for the
Substitution Jutsu,
and to
even.
that I say, what the hell is that? And the very fact that I'm only 40% of my way through this story should tell you everything you need to know about this tale. It is, without an ounce of hyperbole, one of the most densely packed and enjoyable stories I have read so far in this manga epic. Dressrosa so far has dished out more information than I can cover and has offered up more material than I even discussed in most arcs. And we aren't even halfway through.
Crazy.
What is happening? We've been introduced to the bulk, if not all of the subordinates of Doflamingo, with my personal favorite being Senor Pink, who is just the strangest, most delightful
His
character
backstory.
Oda has ever concocted out of
I
his
love
mind.
it.
But I'm sure I'll speak more about him next week. And it's this special brand of comedic strangeness mixed with awesome moments like Heroes
Like,
offered,
for him to dress so
or
weird, it's like,
the
okay, it's like just a weird
Finals,
character choice,
which,
but
by the way, the end of that was chef's kiss. Mwah. Handled again absolutely perfectly, utilizing every character in it to the max. Rebecca being the one out of her depth, and with Bartolomeo and the new guy protecting her from Blackbeard's imposing Jesus Burgess. With it coming down to the wire, the cloaked figure finally grabbing the flame fruit and he erupting into the sky, propelled by fire, saving Rebecca at the last
So
possible
sick.
second.
So
he is the victor,
sick.
and he is the returning Sabo. Now part of the Revolutionary Army, along with Koala, a little girl from Fisher Tiger's flashback sequence in Fish
nice little
Island.
touch. Nice
This
little
arc,
touch.
it's nuts. Standing on the shoulders of the
Yaw.
arcs that came before it, from this point in the story, I can really appreciate how the prior arcs have set the tone and set this one up. And honestly, I cannot begin to predict what's still to come, given all that has happened already, and we now have Sabo back.
Mate.
This is amazing. And honestly, I just want to get back to reading it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will be sure to talk about God Usopp next week.
God Usopp,
and thank
man,
you
yeah.
so much for watching.
It is sick. Dressrosa is sick. Like, I'm just about to finish it, so perfect timing. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting throwbacks to stuff that we've already seen, but then hints at like things that's gonna happen, and like as soon as you find out Sabo's part of the revolutionaries, it's like, oh. And I was instantly like, yeah, makes sense, because Dragon was in the flashback scene. I must have obviously picked him up after the thing with the Celestial Dragons. When you find out that Doflamingo's a Celestial Dragon, you're like, wait, what? How is that a thing? And then it's like, maybe that actually makes sense, because that's possibly why he's able to like manipulate all the things in the background to go his way in that, especially with like the newspaper and that. People were saying, oh, there's... Plus, as well, wasn't there that someone was talking to Doflamingo at the Marineford arc and was telling him to kill the dude from Thriller Bark. So like he is in contact with other people as well, isn't he? Like behind the scenes and that. So yeah. But I'll definitely check out part 2 of this review next week. And thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask to help support the channel. Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, yes, all you guys, next time.